there's definitely something happening in terms of a larger metagame, okay, in terms of UFOs. And if you find yourself kind of locked into one side or the other of this aspect, I think just like, if you find yourself, in the Republican or Democrat circles, cheering like a crazy person over political talking points that mostly have, not a lot to do with you, I think, maybe we've been led astray, okay? And I think in the same sense, I think this is exactly where we're sitting with this UFO report, because it is become this binary, contentious believers versus non-believers, just the ultimate in toxicity. If you guys have been following any of that drama going on in the UFO community, it's disheartening. It's disappointing. It's one of those situations where it's just I don't know. I think we can do better. I think we can do better by demanding better, and not just from our political, let's say, representatives, but also from our DOD, the Department of Defense, from all the information coming out from us, and even, of course, the UFO journalists who swear up and down that all this stuff is completely real. They have the smoking gun evidence, but none of them, and I'm going to say it, and this is going to piss some people off, none of the UFO journalists have the balls to actually just throw caution to the wind and say, look, I know where this information is, and I'm publishing it, and consequences be damned. I get it. Look, I get it. Jail's a scary proposition. You see what they did to Julian Assange. You see what they've done to Snowden. Look, and I said, as I've always said, those are two different cases. And, everything has a bit of nuance, okay? Everything has a bit of nuance. But taking the idea that where a craft is so big, they have to build a building around it, talking about a particular UFO journalist that has literally the smoking gun of actual disclosure, knowing the full location of this thing and not being able to say, well, here it is, because I'm protecting my sources. Seriously? Really? I mean, look, I get it. Journalism is dead these days, but suddenly the UFO journalists have this bastion of what would you call it? Journalistic ethics. They're the last bastion of journalistic ethics because they will not burn their sources for any reason. Now, look, I'm rambling a little bit too much, but basically, look, this is what happened. This report came out on Friday, and it's called the, yes, indeed, links in the description down below if you want to check it out. I highly encourage you to read this if you're interested. It's called the Department of Defense All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, is where this came from, of course, the AARO. We've talked about this in the past, AARO. And the report is called a Report on the Historical Record of U.S. Government Involved with Unidentified Anomalous Phenomena, or UAP. And this is Volume 1 in February 2024. So they just released this. So I guess they were putting the final touches on this in February, and we're just seeing this on Friday. But there's some pretty wild stuff in here. And a couple things that I was actually interested in, like massively interested in, and where some of this information was kind of like punch yourself in the face when it was kind of considering what they were telling us with this new sort of UFO transparency bit, at least what they were telling us with Arrow and some of these other new programs, right? Remember they had the UFO hearings and, some of that stuff when we followed it, and it was frustrating because they were acting like legacy UFO programs did not exist. They barely at all scratched the surface or even mentioned Project Blue Book. It seemed like even Moultrie and some of these other guys that was it Kirkpatrick, I believe. There's a lot of these guys even acted like they didn't even know there was an ongoing investigation into UFOs that had been closed, all the way back to the 50s and 60s with, of course, Project Grudge, Sign, Blue Book, and all the rest of that as it kind of rolled through, right? Well, now we have this. Now, this report, I'm going to read a little bit from this because it's incredibly interesting in a lot of ways, all right? So I'm going to read from this heavily, but of course, the questions tonight are as follows. If you had a chance to read this, I'd love to hear your opinion, or if not, and you're going to kind of catch up with some of the stuff I'm reading here, I've highlighted some of the things that are highly fascinating. And not only that, it seems like this has just become a massive smokescreen to kind of whitewash the idea of UFOs from the zeitgeist entirely. That's what this seems like to me. And look, I don't believe information coming from the government. It pisses me off a ton that they lie to us all the time and all the rest. They can't tell us even a single basic truth about any damn thing because they're always hiding and doing all the dumb stuff that they do, right? And in this case, it seems like it's more of the same. It's more of the same of frustration, and yeah. So I'm going to read a little bit of this just to get us kind of a wetter appetite. But what do you think is happening in the larger context? As usual, UFO shows do get a lot of engagement, a lot of ideas because because people are interested in this. This is probably one of those basic where people are most interested in when it comes to sort of the wooville, the hop on the woo train, woo, and UFOs. People got into this for the UFOs and for whatever other things kind of come along with it, right? So that's what's up. I'm going to read you some of this. I want to hear your take on what the hell you think is happening, because this is a wild thing that's just kind of popped out, and both sides are just absolutely nuts. Like the debunker crew are like doing victory laps and being like, "We told you so." There's nothing to see here. There's never been anything to see here. It's all nonsense, and it's all politics, and it's all secret projects and programs that have been misidentified over the years, right? And even to the point of describing it as some sort of thing that built to obfuscate, meaning the narrative of UFOs built to obfuscate intentionally and mislead the public, okay, regarding what's happening here. But anyway, so I'm going to read some of this, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on what the hell do you think is going on, because basically this is a report that says absolutely nothing to see here. Absolutely nothing. We didn't find a shred of evidence, contrary to even recent whistleblowers saying wild and ridiculous things. And, here we are. So I'm going to read a little bit of this when we get back. As you know, we're going to take a quick break and get a word from our sponsor. I appreciate that, your patience with that. And take a moment. By the way, I need this stoic moment right now, because let me tell you something. I'm a little bit cranky. Today. And there's a couple reasons. Number one, it's tax season. And you know how I get cranky when it's tax season, okay? Number two, daylight savings. And so I've lost an hour of sleep tonight because of our government during tax season. And look, if we're just letting this stuff happen, guys, this is ridiculous. And I am ultra cranky today because of that exact reason. Two things, completely unnecessary. Reform should be on the horizon, and only if we demand more. Okay, only if we demand more. Demand better. What we're talking about tonight is this Department of Defense All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, ARROW, released this report. This happened on Friday. Report on the historical record of U.S. government involvement with unidentified anomalous phenomena. Links in the description if you want to kind of get ahead of this and read a little bit and have some hot takes from me. I appreciate you guys chiming in, because this stuff is not just immensely frustrating. It is. It seems to be, again, a whitewash. Okay. So here's the executive summary. I'm going to read straight from this thing, and then we'll open up the phone lines, take calls at the bottom of the hour. So ARROW found no evidence. This is the section 2, the executive summary on page 7. ARROW found no evidence that any United States government investigation, academic-sponsored research, or official review panel has confirmed that any sighting of a UAP represented extraterrestrial technology. All investigative efforts at all levels of classification concluded that most sightings were ordinary objects and phenomena and the result of misidentification. Although not the focus of this report, it is worthwhile to note that all official foreign UAP investigatory efforts to date have reached the same general conclusions as USG investigations. Got 3 little bullet points. Although many UAP reports remain unsolved or unidentified, ARROW assesses that if more and better quality data were available, most of these cases also could be identified and resolved as ordinary objects or phenomena. Sensors and visual observations are imperfect. The vast majority of cases lack actionable data, or the data available is limited or of poor quality. Second bullet point, resources and staffing for these programs largely have been irregular and sporadic, challenging investigatory efforts and hindering effective knowledge transfer. Third bullet point, the vast majority of reports almost certainly are the result of misidentification and a direct consequence of the lack of domain awareness. There is a direct correlation between the amount of quality of available information on a case with the ability to conclusively solve it. All right. Basically, right out of the gate, they're just saying, nothing to see here. We've never found even a shred of evidence to suggest any of this woo-woo Roswell narrative. Anything. Period. It even goes on in this report later to suggest that they had a definitive Roswell report come out that was discussing exactly the, entities that they found were sort of crash test dummies as part of this weather balloon, okay? And that's in this report, sort of reiterating what they did. I think it was released in 2006 or 2007, somewhere in that range. I can't remember the exact date, but okay, but so you get the idea. This is exactly where this is. This is the executive summary, page 7, section 2. All right. This is the part that's got, again, both sides of the UFO culture war losing their minds. Listen to this. Arrow found no empirical evidence for claims that the United States government and private companies have been reverse engineering extraterrestrial technology. Arrow determined, based on all information provided to date, that claims involving specific people, known locations, technological tests, and documents allegedly involved in or related to the reverse engineering of extraterrestrial technology are inaccurate. Additional claims will be addressed in Volume 2. That's going to be a hot one if they can actually debunk a bunch of this reverse engineering stuff. This continues. Arrow successfully located the United States government and industry programs, officials, companies, executives, and documents identified by interviewees. Presumably, I guess we're talking about some of these whistleblowers, okay? It continues. In many cases, the interviewees named authentic USG classified programs, well known and understood to those appropriately access to them in the executive branch and legislative branch. However, the interviewees mistakenly associated these authentic USG programs with alien and extraterrestrial activity. Arrow has reached the following high-confidence conclusions related to these particular things. Now, we're saying that even the people that believe it, they do believe it, except they've completely misidentified all of the information coming out from the government, okay? And it has nothing to do with crash retrievals. It has nothing to do with reverse engineering. It has nothing to do with aliens at all, okay? At all, all right? Exactly. Richard says the general cover story. And this seems to be like a whitewash blanket of that, just being like, hey, there's absolutely nothing to see here. Y'all are insane, and that's that. And you guys know me. If it comes from the government, I'm typically not going to trust it, okay? However, you know me also with willing to entertain some more wild ideas. So what is going on here, basically, is the question tonight. And did you get a chance to check out this Arrow report, and what are your impressions so far? So here's a few things. Now, there's a lot of these, so I'm not going to read this straight through. I'll read a few of them, and then we'll hopefully, we got James popped in here. We'll talk to James, and then we'll take your calls as well. But here's the deal, right? They went down the line, and they're basically addressing nearly everything that you could imagine in terms of, one thing I didn't see in here was like Project Serpo, the alien exchange program, like sort of Close Encounters from the third kind, right? With Steven Spielberg and that movie from the late 70s, early 80s. When was it? Anyway, so you get my meaning. They address nearly everything. And here I'm going to read a few and you'll see exactly what I mean, which is nuts. They're basically saying everything you've ever heard about UFOs is false. And we're going to talk about these things one by one in the report. Okay, here we go. So the UAP non-disclosure agreements, or the NDAs. Arrow has found no evidence of any authentic UAP-related NDA or other evidence threatening death or violence for disclosing UAP information. That was one of those modern actual things brought about by one David Grush, okay, saying that people's lives had been threatened in these NDAs and all the things, okay? All right, so they basically said, nope, no evidence of that. I don't know what they're talking about, okay? Next, a CIA official allegedly managed UAP experimentation. I don't know who this is or what the story is. This gets into some wild stories straight from this government report. The named former CIA official was not involved in the movement of extraterrestrial technology. The same former CIA officer signed a memo rejecting a claim made by interviewees that he managed the movement and the movement of and experimentation of off-world technology. They're saying, nope, no evidence of that. This guy's mistaken or off his rocker. Okay, they didn't say off his rocker. That's me, of course, adding some flair to the conversation. Now, the third one here. Again, there's a whole list of these. And again, this is on page, what is this? Page 7, page 8 is where I'm leading into this. And this is, again, 40 pages or something. So this is right off the bat getting into some spicy stuff from a government report, right? Like literally talking about, no evidence of threatening death or violence, no actual UFO non-disclosure agreements, all the rest of this stuff. This alleged CIA officer did not actually move or experiment with off-world technology, okay? He was not involved in this. This is false, all right? Here's the third one. This gets better, right? Because, of course, hell yeah. Alleged UAP intelligence community document. An alleged 1961 special national intelligence estimate that was leaked to online sources and suggests the extraterrestrial nature of UFOs is inauthentic. Now, I'm not exactly sure. I'm not a UFO historian, And so I don't know exactly these particular cases they're talking about. I'm sure somebody out there may understand, or maybe this will pop up in your mind on what these particular things are. But they're basically going through some of these most major claims that have been made, specifically about the UFO stuff, and shooting every one of them down. Let's see one more, and then we'll take a break here, and then talk to James and everybody else. Okay, so here's the next one. Aliens present during a DoD technology test. All right. Arrow reviewed information related to an account of an interviewee overhearing a conversation about a technology test at a military base where aliens allegedly were observing, and Arrow judges that the interviewee misunderstood the conversation. Imagine misunderstanding a conversation so badly that it has to do with regular nuts and bolts military type stuff, terrestrial stuff, and you misunderstand a conversation so poorly that you're like, yep, there's aliens at that base. I mean, I can't even imagine, short of not hearing it at all and just making it up yourself, how badly you could misunderstand a conversation like that. And again, I'm not saying these stories are correct. I'm not saying these stories are accurate. I'm not saying any of that. But I think it is fascinating as hell that the government's literally going through many of these claims and being like, nope, 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 nope. All right, one more, and then we'll take a quick break. No aliens present during a DoD technology test. All right? Okay. Here's another one. A claim that a military officer touched an off-world craft. Yes, you've heard of this one, right? An interviewee claimed that a named former military officer explained in detail how he physically touched an extraterrestrial spacecraft. The story is inaccurate. The claim was denied on the record by the named former officer, who recounted his story when he touched an F-117 Nighthawk stealth fighter that could have been misconstrued by the interviewee, though the named former officer does not recall having this conversation with the interviewee. All right, so of course now we're completely obfuscating, or sorry, not obfuscating. We are completely misinterpreting as terrestrial F-117 Nighthawk for an actual extraterrestrial craft that you put your hand on. But again, the named former officer doesn't even recall having the conversation. So as usual, look, there's a ton of wild stories when you start to get into ufology and a lot of this stuff, okay? And it's okay. Like, this stuff is okay. Like, as you know, like I've said this a lot, I think there's more to it than just nuts and bolts. I think that, probably the stuff that we're talking about here on this show is probably closer to the truth than what the UFO propagandists say, and probably closer to the truth than what this sort of Arrow whitewash of ufology has become. I think there's probably going to be a gray area in there, and that's really where we reside in these conversations. We're staying out of the binary culture wars, even binary UFO culture wars, the UFO aspect itself, and thinking about other ideas. What are we missing in terms of UFOs? Anyway, so that's what's on my mind tonight, all of this. This dropped on Friday. Like I said, if you guys had a chance to read this, super cool. I'd love to hear your take on it. If not, I'm going to read some more of this as we go, and we'll kind of frame it however you want. As usual, the question, the ideas here. Non-linear, open-ended. We can take these conversations wherever you like. But what do you think is happening with this actual Arrow report? Again, this dropped on Friday. It is called the Report on the Historical Record of U.S. Government Involvement with Unidentified Anomalous Phenomena, Volume 1. Looking forward to Volume 2 because double hell yeah. If they're going to get into more of this specifics on these actual sort of wild claims we've heard in ufology for a long time now, right? So anyway, that's where we're at tonight. Love to hear what you think on this. And there's a lot happening, of course, because like I said, when something like this happens, the debunker crew, and I'm like, I can't even just imagine sort of identifying yourself as a debunker, right? Like, or even with that crew. Just like I couldn't imagine sort of identifying yourself as a UFO propagandist and kind of eating up every story that comes out of the particular journalists that are always pushing this stuff. Like to me, both of those sides are just mind-boggling to even choose a side in just a binary mess of a culture war. It's nuts to me. Well, what are we missing in the middle of those two sides that and this government report that's like, yeah, nothing to see here. This is the dumbest stuff ever, and even to the point of calling the individuals in question, the whistleblowers, let's say, what did they say about him? We'll get to it. I'm not going to put words into the mouth of the federal government because they can put their own foot in their own mouth just fine without me. But that's what's on my mind tonight. That's where we're at. And what do you know about this particular report? It dropped on Friday. Tons of stuff. People flinging poo at each other on Twitter, as you would expect. And once again, the binary UFO culture war is in full effect. People just drama. Let's avoid the drama. Let's talk about the ideas. What the hell is happening with this? Do you believe the U.S. government finally says absolutely nothing to see here, which seems like Project Blue Book 2024. Seems strange to you? It seems strange to me. Think there's more to it? What are they obfuscating? Is this a whitewash of UFOs from the zeitgeist forever? And is there a larger, let's say, UFO Cold War happening within the Department of Defense itself?